When Elise moved into the abandoned Victorian house, she thought she was alone. But every midnight, the sound of footsteps echoed in the empty hallways, and the mirror in the dining room seemed to hold more than just her reflection. Something watches from the shadows, and it's getting closer. It was a quiet town, the kind where nothing ever seemed to happen. But when Elise moved into the old Victorian house at the edge of town, the silence felt different, heavy, as though the air itself watched her. The house had been abandoned for years. The neighbors whispered rumors of the previous owners vanishing overnight, leaving all their belongings behind. But Elise was drawn to its faded charm and ignored the warnings. She moved in alone, with only her dog, Max, for company. The first sign something was wrong came a week later. Max wouldn't enter the dining room. He stood at the threshold, growling low in his throat, fur bristling. Elise laughed it off. Dogs were strange sometimes. But that night, she woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, heavy, deliberate. She sat up, heart pounding. Hello? Silence. The next morning, she found the dining room chairs rearranged. All of them turned toward the same spot against the far wall, directly below an old, cracked mirror. Elise dismissed it as her imagination. But then, the knocking started. 3 sharp knocks. Always at midnight. Always from inside the dining room. She tried calling friends, but her phone kept losing signal, static crackling through the line. Desperate for answers, she dug through the basement, where the original owner's belongings were stored. And she found it, an old leather-bound journal. The mirror is the door. I hear them at night. Do not look into it too long. The writing grew more frantic, scrawled pages full of warnings. Then, suddenly, the entries stopped. That night, curiosity overwhelmed her. She stood before the mirror, staring into its cracked surface. And behind her reflection, something stirred. A shape, pale, featureless, closer than it should have been. The knocking began again. But this time, it wasn't on the wall. It was right behind the glass. The figure pressed a hand against the mirror, a rotting, skeletal grin spreading wide. And then it whispered,